Listen, Linda. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Linda. I know your name's not Linda, but listen. Are you fighting some kind of addiction? And I know addictions are hard. You know, I'm gonna put it out there. I used to smoke, drink a bottle of wine and smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day. And I just thought I would never quit. And I know you've probably heard me talk about this in other videos, but I seriously enjoyed it. And as you start to heal, initially it's fun, right? Anything that you're excessively enjoying feels good. That's why you keep doing it, right? Initially, because there's something in your brain, you get that dopamine hit every time you do it, and then you want more and more. You ever wonder why eventually that first glass of alcohol, remember you used to have the first glass of wine or whatever it is that you like to drink, if you drink, that the first time you took that drink and it felt good, right? Like you got that dopamine hit. And then the second time you did it, you had to drink more to get that same feeling. And the third time you had to drink more and you had to drink more until eventually you just didn't, like, you're probably out of control. I was, but anyway, we're not talking about me. Now, the reason why you need 2 and 3 and more and more and more is because every time you're giving yourself a dopamine hit, you need more dopamine to get that same feel-good feeling until eventually you just don't get it anymore. That's why drug addicts do drugs, more drugs. That's why they need more. Like they take that first hit of crack and it's not enough. You need more, right? And so we understand that this is how addiction works. And if you don't, now you do. That's how addiction works. And the thing is that to get down to how do you replace, first of all, how are you going to replace that dopamine hit, right? Especially when eventually that addiction that you have is now making you sick. It doesn't feel good anymore, but now you're sick, right? And I'm not a counselor. I am a nurse, but I'm not a counselor. So, you do what you got to do. Go see your doctor. This is not medical advice at all. But I'm just talking to my ladies out there who are trying to step into their authenticity, because I know some of you are using something. I don't know what it is. Some of us ladies, we use shopping. Some of us, it's alcohol. Some of us smoke cigarettes. Some of us do drugs. I don't know. Whatever it is that you're doing, that's now no longer filling the void for you, right? How are you going to replace it? And I just made another video about finding solitude, right? You got to get away from the noise. You got to get away from the noise because you got to figure out who you are, what you really like, and what really makes you feel good. You see, I come and I make these videos, right? And I tell my husband all the time, he's like, you're always making a video. I'm like, yes, I am, because this makes me feel good. It makes me feel good to be able to come and say something that may help someone else, to share my story, to share something that may be helpful to someone else. Do I expect it to be helpful for everyone? No, but this gives me an outlet, right? Because it's not everyone around you who's going to want the information you have either, right? When you start telling people that you're doing things, you're doing new things, you're reinventing yourself, people are like, yeah, okay, yeah, we know who you are. Just calm, hold your horses, honey. It's just, we already know who you are, right? So they're not trying to see you in a new light. These people are not trying to see you in a new light. But you already see yourself in a new light. So now it's like, how do you show up as that new person that you are? Part of it is going to be giving up that addiction. It could be, like I said, it could be shopping. Maybe you're over shopping. Like you need the newest thing. Every time it comes out, you got to have it. Why? Because it fills a void. It fills a void of something that you don't have. So what is it that you're missing? And most likely for most of us ladies here, if you're watching me, most of us, it's a part of us that's missing. Whether it's your inner child that you left behind, that something, maybe you were abused, we all have a story. There's a story we all have a story. Maybe, that you had parents that were over controlling and you could never make up your own mind for yourself. So this was your outlet, right? This was your dopamine hit, your way to feel good because something else didn't feel good. So whatever didn't feel good, you were trying to mask it with what didn't feel good. But the honest truth is that whatever it was that didn't feel good, at some point, you're going to have to go back and face it. Oh, yes, you are. You're going to have to face it head on. And I'm not saying that you got to go face, if you've been abused, that you got to go face your abuser. That's not what I'm saying. But you have to face what happened head on. And then you got to figure out how you're going to make yourself feel better. How you're going to be, like, let's say it's a parent that abused you, right? Like, you're going to have to figure out how to reparent yourself, how to protect yourself, how to set boundaries, and all those things. And it's pretty amazing that as you do that, it's not that the addictions just fall away immediately, right? But a little bit at a time, you're able to let them go. And then, the craziest thing that happens, just based on my experience, is that when you try, you'll try to go back once you've healed, right? This is a process, by the way. This is not like something that happens overnight. This is something that you have to constantly work on. You may need to go to therapy. And I talk about mental health here all the time. And, I don't even know how much more I need to talk about this. And I think I need to continue to talk about it. And I'm so glad I hear so many more people thinking about talking about this, because if you need therapy, then go to therapy so you can work it out. But, you got to find a good therapist also. You got to find somebody that clicks with you, that understands you, and is also not just going to feed into your narrative, right? Your narrative is important. Don't get me wrong. Your narrative is going to be very important, and you want someone that's going to hear you out. And you don't want someone that's going to minimize you, especially if you're someone that's been minimized already your whole life. Like, that's not what you're looking for. And if that happens, then you need to get out of that patient mental health relationship and find someone else who is better suited for you. But at the same time, though, you're going to need someone to talk to. What do you think they have, like? And for many of us, ladies, it's more than one thing. Sometimes it's food, alcohol, it's shopping. There are so many different things. You know what it is for you. When you stop and you look at yourself, you know what that thing is for you, or what those things are for you. You got to tackle them one thing at a time, and see when did you start, right? And what void were you trying to fill? When did you start needing that dopamine hit? What happened that made you start needing that dopamine hit? So, becoming authentically you, finding your confidence. I'm talking about all of this, not because I'm like, yeah, go out there and be stuck up. No, that's not what I'm talking about. But I am talking about going out there and being confident, talking out there and knowing who you are and not letting anyone else tell you who they think you are. I am talking about separating yourself from your kids, your husband, and finding who you are in that relationship and standing your ground. And not to say that, there's compromise. It's a relationship. You are in a relationship with people, and some relationships are closer than others. Are those relationships serving you? Are those relationships nurturing you? Are they helping you nurture yourself? Are they you have to nurture yourself, but are they allowing you to nurture yourself? Or are you using all those addictions to fill the place where you can't nurture yourself because you're so busy giving to everybody else? And then you can do things like mindlessly smoke cigarettes. I used to mindlessly, and it was to the point where I didn't even realize I was lighting them up. I was like smoking them one after the other. Right? And I would go through a pack in a day. Are you kidding me? And it's really interesting when you start to heal. Sometimes it's something that jolts you, that makes you, usually it's going to be something that jolts you, right? So a lot of you that are here watching me are probably like, I've had enough. Something jolted you to the point where you're just like, I've had enough. What do I do now? Right? Like, I'm tired of this. I can't numb myself anymore with shopping. I can't numb myself with cigarettes. I can't numb myself with alcohol. I can't numb myself with food. Right? And it's not even being numb anymore. Now, all these things that I'm doing are hurting me because my bank account can't take me spending all this money and all these things, all these addictions that I have. Right? So I'm hurting myself. Instead of feeling better, I'm hurting myself in so many different ways. And I'm not judging. I've been there. This is not me. So anytime I come on here, I am not judging. And you know why? I'm not looking for anybody to judge me. If this is not for you, it's not for you, and that's okay. If you're doing good, I'm glad for you. But for those of you who are out there, who know what I'm talking about, who feel what I'm talking about, it's time to look within. And, and I always talk about, like, I started my journey by deciding, well, I don't think I ever even said this, but I actually, I always say I started my journey 5 years ago, but this journey is so intricate that it starts at different levels. You have different levels of waking up to who you are. One part of my journey was waking up one day and realizing I didn't want to be where I was. And I had to figure out why and how I got there. And then, realizing I didn't want, like, certain relationships weren't working, and not trying to force them anymore. Not trying to force myself, because here's the thing. I keep talking about you gotta shrink to keep some relationships going, because people are used to who they've seen you be, and you've always shrunk before. Like, so why not now? Why don't you want to keep shrinking? Obviously, because it's not feeling good. So now you got to figure out, is this relationship working? And usually there's something major that happens, somebody does something, in a relationship where you're just like, woosah, this is the freaking last straw. I'm not taking this anymore. And either we're going to have a conversation and we're going to come to an agreement that this is not happening anymore, or this is really not happening anymore because we're going to take a break. Like, we're not doing this, right? And because this is not healthy. And that's the thing. So you, instead of looking at from it as from a standpoint of just even shrinking, to which a lot of us have done to make other people feel better about the things that they say to us, the things that they do to us, the things that they've done to us, the things they did that they would like to be able to continue to do to us. And because you have the ironic part about this is, and I know I started talking about addictions, but stay with me, because this is all part of the addiction. You have part of the addiction is being addicted to some relationships and the dynamics of those relationships, because you play a part. It's kind of like waking up and owning that, hey, there's something that I'm doing. Like, forget about what this other person is doing, right? That I don't like. There's something that I'm doing that's allowing this other person to come into my life and keep doing this thing. What is that thing that I'm doing? How am I allowing them? Because people can only really do to you and make you feel in ways that you allow them to. And it takes a minute to realize that, because we always want to blame everyone and go like, oh, they made me feel, they said this thing, because once you figure that out, it doesn't matter what they say. Like, it will go in one ear and out the other, because you're like, that's not for me. That has, what you just said has nothing to do with me. What you just said is really not for me, and you're probably not going to get to say it again. Not to me. You could say it, I don't care who else you go and say it to, but it's not going to be to me. And that's not being mean. That's not being stuck up. That's setting a boundary for your own mental health. That's setting a boundary for your own for your own health, and your mental health affects your physical health, affects all these other things and your addictions that you feed into to make you feel better. So today, what I want you to do is I want you to take a look at that. Take a look at not the other person, right? And if you're in a bad situation, I want you to get somewhere safe. There's information in my description box, with phone numbers and things that you can call, right? Get somewhere safe. Call a trusted family member, friend, whatever. I don't want to ever see anybody in a situation where they are at risk of harm. But, it's like, what are you going to do today to look at and see where you're playing a part? Because that's truly the first part of stopping it. Because once you realize that, oh, I played into this, like they asked me to go along and I went with it. And then this is where, we talk about saying no. This is where saying no comes in. And saying no is not about being mean. It's about protecting yourself and saying, no, I am not going to participate in this dynamic that's keeping me trapped and keeping me small and keeping me in this loop so that somebody else can feel better. It's because if I don't feel good, if you're in a relationship and there's equal give and take, everybody should feel good. And if everybody in the relationship is not feeling good, I'm not saying everybody's going to feel 100%, I'm not talking about like 100% everybody's going to feel good about everything. Because yes, we compromise, but I cannot compromise everything that I am to make you feel better. And then now I got to go take drugs. I got to go drink alcohol. I have to go shopping to make me feel good now because this relationship is tearing me apart. This situation is tearing me apart. This job, whatever it is in your life that's tearing you apart. This incident is tearing me apart. This issue, I've let this thing that happened to me when I was, 6 years old, 5 years old, is tearing me apart. So I want you to start there, right? I'm not a therapist, but I just want you to start to look and see where you're playing a part and where you can stop playing a part. Where do you start saying no, not to somebody else? See, when you say no, we look at saying no like, oh my gosh, I can't do that because you know what? I don't want them to feel bad. No, because when you say no, it's saying no to yourself. And what are you saying no to yourself about? You're saying no to yourself that, no, I am not going to do anything that makes me feel bad. Isn't that a good thing? I think it's a good thing. I have found it to be a very good thing. So I don't know, drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. Try it. Let me know if that works for you. And because I want you all to not, this is not like about saying, oh yeah, because I see a lot of comments about, women, they're tired, they're exhausted, they're in these relationships, they're doing the most, right? And they're like, my husband don't do nothing, my kids, whatever. What dynamic? Where did you play the part in allowing all this to happen, this dynamic to take place? Because obviously everyone's benefiting from the dynamic that you yourself are allowing. And I know like we're indoctrinated into these dynamics, right? And so we think that that's what we're supposed to do. But when you find that you're in addictions, you feel like crap, you're not thriving, you don't know who you are, you got to do something else. You got to pivot. All right. So let me know what you're going to do to pivot, and I will see you in the next one.